more of those wintry showers just drift into eastern areas of England, and so there is another snow and ice warning that comes into force here throughout Saturday. But again, if you are inland away from those, there will be a decent amount of sunshine if you want to get outside, but it's still going to be feeling very cold with that brisk breeze in play. Most of us not seeing temperatures higher than much of 2 or 3 degrees Celsius. Those cold conditions will continue into Sunday as well and into the start of next week. Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for helping us reach 10 million followers across social media. We are truly honoured to have your trust, one follower at a time.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. On the A93, the road is closed at the snow gates between Braemar and Spittal of Glenshee because of adverse weather. In North Wales, the A55 is struggling in both directions between Junction 14 at Madryn and Junction 11 at Llandigai, with poor driving conditions in wintry weather. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast has major engineering work between Milton Keynes Central and Northampton or Rugby, while Cross Country reports major engineering work in the Cambridge area. So allow extra time and check before you travel. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, here at Holbrook Animal Rescue, they're being forced to relocate, and if they can't find a suitable alternative, they'll even be at risk of closing. And I've seen the amazing work that they've done here. Just earlier we met a dog called Essie who has just found her almost possible forever home literally in the time that we were here. She only came here a couple of days ago, so it's really great work that they do for all animals. Like this one here, this is Torn, he's just a puppy, and I'm also joined by Laura Santini, who runs the shelter. Tell us a bit about Torn here.
So this is just a little fellow that came in, no fault of his own. The people just couldn't cope with him. So he's lively, and he's a half shepherd, half Labrador. What kind of impact would the possible relocation or even closure have on dogs like this one and all the other animals you have here? Well, simply that we wouldn't be able to take them. So if the next one comes up like this and we've got nowhere to go, then we just can't take them, obviously. So what happens to them at that point, I don't know, because we don't just take beautiful pups like this. We take the old and the sick and the dogs that other people don't necessarily want to take. So I can't imagine what would happen to some of them. So I don't know. It's sad. It's just a sad situation. And you've had quite a lot of support from the community here in trying to relocate. What's been there for you in terms of support? They're absolutely incredible. They've sent 1,000 letters into the council to try and support us and help us and let everyone see the light that, you know, you do actually need animal sanctuaries around. You can't shut them all down. We're always getting phone calls saying how much people like what we do and hope we get our plan in appeal when it goes through and things like that.
GB News, the People's Channel.
All too often, people will be sitting at home watching a press conference live, and they'll hear loads of questions being asked, and they'll be thinking, that's not my question. That's not my concern.
We don't care whose feathers we ruffle. We ask the questions that you want answering.
You're all standing on the street protesting and want to have an open discussion.
My name is Patrick Christie's. I do a show for GB News in the UK. Is it possible to talk to you quickly?
Journalism in this country has been a cosy world full of groupthink until now.
Well, this is the best view ever of Whitehall, looking out across all the tractor drivers of England who've come together to make their point.
Hello, so as you can see, I'm here in Westminster as the protest begins.
Yes, I'm very much in the thick of it.
Look, we're challenging narratives here at GB News, and that's what sets us apart.
Good morning, it's 9:30 a.m. on Friday, the 2nd of January. Can you believe it? 2026. Where was that last year going? Where did it go? I don't know. Anyway, look, we're live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Alex Armstrong and Miriam Cates.
Well, an Islamist killer is handed £240,000 of taxpayer funding after the Justice Secretary, David Lammy, settles a human rights claim over his treatment in prison.
And around 40 people have died and 115 are seriously injured following a fire in a bar at a popular Swiss tourist spot. Authorities are trying to identify the victims.
The first victim has been named as 17-year-old Emanuele Galoppini, who was said to have been a young athlete who embodied passion and authentic values.
I know many across Britain are still struggling with the cost of living. Help.
Well, new figures show that Britain's poorest families have grown poorer under Labour. We thought this government wanted to raise living standards for everyone.
As we look forward to 2026, we have a massive set of elections. The whole of Scotland, the whole of Wales, all 32 London boroughs.
Hey, big spender. Nigel Farage has vowed to go double or quits on May's local elections with a huge spending spree of £5 million.
And 6 people have died in Iran after police opened fire on protesters defying a regime crackdown. As nationwide unrest escalates, we'll have the latest.
I do think it's a win for black cab drivers because, like you say, it's evening up the level of the playing field now. The fares are going to go up.
Everybody should pay their fair share of the tax, no? Including the big boys.
Black cab drivers tell GB News they are delighted at a new tax hike for online minicab firms as the Chancellor promises to protect everyday cabbies.
And it's going to be a chilly start to 2026 as snow begins to fall in some parts of the country and travel disruption is expected. Have you seen any yet? Do let us know.
Well, there's a massive scandal happening in Minnesota in the United States. It involves daycare centres, nurseries as we call them here, and the Somalian community. Supposedly, Donald Trump is saying up to $18 billion has been defrauded in the area, Miriam.
And it's been going on for some time. I think it started in COVID where some charities set up to look like they were providing food to vulnerable children, but they never provided any food. They just funneled the taxpayer cash. But what's really interesting about this story, Alex, is it's enormous in America. It's everywhere online, and yet it's had hardly any coverage in the British press. Well, at the moment, we seem to cover a lot of American stories. Why not this one?
And also, in the American press, the mainstream media do not want to touch this. Maybe it's for reasons of diversity and they don't want to upset certain communities. However, it is fraud, and fraud is fraud. Some of the video clips coming out of this are absolutely insane, and if this fraud is proven to be true, it will be bigger than the entire GDP of Somalia itself. Incredible.
Because that's the thing. Some of this money has been used to spend on luxury cars and things like that, but it looks like some of it has gone directly into Somalia, and then who knows what use it's been put to. So we will be digging into that with an American journalist, but we'd love to know what you think, so send your views and comments to gbnews.com/yoursay.
But first, here's your 60-second news update with Sophia Wensler.
Alex, Miriam, thank you. Your headlines at 9:33. The first victim of a bar fire in the Swiss ski resort of Crans-Montana has been named as Emanuele Galoppini, an Italian teen golfer. Around 40 people are dead and 115 injured after the fire tore through the Constellation Bar as people celebrated the turn of the year. The UK's poorest households are worse off since Labour took power, according to new figures from Retail Economics. An Islamist killer has been handed £7,500 in compensation by the High Court over breaches of his human rights, and taxpayers will foot the £234,000 legal bill. A chickenpox vaccine for all young children is being rolled out on the NHS for the first time. And it's going to be a chilly start to 2026 with cold Arctic winds bringing snow and ice to Britain. A yellow weather warning for snow and ice is in place throughout this morning for an area covering London, Greater Manchester and Cardiff. Those are the headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. We are live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Alex Armstrong and Miriam Cates.
Now, if you thought that things couldn't get any worse for Britain, brace yourself for this.
David Lammy, the Justice Secretary and Deputy Prime Minister, has agreed to pay £7,500 in compensation and foot a £234,000 legal bill for Faoud Awale, I hope I've said that name correctly, a convicted Islamist double murderer after a judge ruled that his treatment in jail breached his human rights.
Well, this man took a prison officer hostage and demanded the release of the hate preacher Abu Qatada. And Britain has now handed £240,000 of taxpayer cash towards his legal costs and, of course, £7,500 of compensation to him himself.
It's just utterly bonkers. It really, I do not understand what is going on in this country. This is meant to be hard time you're serving, and if you're going to come up with wads of cash at the end of it, this is incentive, isn't it, to go to prison these days? It's mad. It's totally mad.
It is. And the idea that you can have a right to privacy in prison, which is the right under the ECHR through which he's won this case, is absurd. I mean, you give up your right to privacy if you commit a crime and get sent to prison.
Yeah, I don't get it. There's something seriously wrong with Britain, isn't there? Well, joining us now to discuss this is human rights lawyer David Hay. David, thank you for joining us this morning. This case has really wound up the British public, and rightfully so. And listen, we all believe in the rights of each other as human beings. However, this is not a nice man. He is convicted double murderer. He has been hanging around with some pretty awful people in prison. Why on earth should we, and have we, got into a situation where we're paying this man out wads of cash?
Hi, good morning to you both. I think, I agree with you. It's utterly absurd. I mean, this is not what, when the ECHR was put in place and the Universal Declaration from the United Nations were put in place, this is not what they were put in place to actually protect. In no way was Article 8 put in place to basically award damages to a double murderer because he can't meet with his Islamist extremist chums. That's not what it's there for. And we've come such a long way from what her human rights should be to where they are now. And I think that's the problem. And, and I think there's so many ways and so many things that you can talk about this, but, it really is kind of, almost like hugger thug judiciary. We remember the hugger thug when we had David Cameron's government. And this, I think, the human rights laws, and it's how they interpret them. And I think the interpretation here is the problem. And that's what we need to address. We need to address the interpretation and scale it back, because human rights, as far as I'm concerned, as a human rights lawyer, I want to see the basic human rights of everyone on the planet protected. Things like a right to life, right to a fair trial, and these are what we need to protect, and protect properly and fully and quickly. And we're not being able to do that because we're having absurd cases like this, and absurd cases like not being able to deport someone because of chicken nuggets. And, we've got this situation where now, if you say you're a human rights lawyer, it's almost a dirty word, So I think we need at the start of this new year to have proper adult conversations and make real changes. Else we'll be here next year having the same conversations about people coming across the channel, not being able to deport people from jails and so on.
It seems to me that part of the problem, at least, is that the ECHR is what's called a living convention. It keeps being added to by case law, unlike other more static laws. And so each time an opportunistic lawyer finds a loophole that can be exploited, the case law is added to, and then more and more people can use these cases for their own case. Is that specific to the ECHR? If we left the ECHR and we repealed the Human Rights Act, would we solve these problems, or do we have other domestic legislation that could give us equally thorny problems?
It's the same thing in this. We have common law here in the UK as well. So in any jurisdiction where you have common law, and that's basically pretty much most of the countries that we colonise. So you look at, for instance, Australia, you can look at like New Zealand, etc. Even in elements of certain places now in the Middle East, they're using common law. The law. So, for instance, if you have a law that says, you shall not kill people, obviously that's you can't change that. But what they do is when they interpret certain defences, and then they can expand that. So it's a living instrument. So we have that pretty much everywhere where there is common law. But I think the problem that you're having in when it comes to human rights is that the interpretation of the judges of basic things like what is. So, for instance, if we look at the right to not be tortured, that's been expanded now to inhumane and degrading treatment, and that changes over time. What is inhumane and degrading treatment 50 years ago is classed very differently to what is inhumane and degrading treatment now. And I think this is one of the problems that you get when it comes to human rights. I think what we should look at having is very clear set laws and very clear barriers to stop the judges going off on merry chasers like this judge in this particular case, finding that this person is entitled to compensation and that his right to a family life has been breached because he can't associate with his terrorist chums. This is absurd.
David, just very briefly, what happens if we ignore the ECHR's rulings? Is there a fine? Is there some sort of punishment for Britain?
Well, I mean, this case is actually in English. This is our High Court that's done this, interpreting, obviously, the ECHR coming down. So in this case, if the government ignored the High Court, that would be very serious. That's government ignoring our own courts. To answer your general question, if we want to ignore the rulings, the actual rulings of the ECHR, which many other countries do in Europe, we can do that. There will be some consequences, but they're not as serious as ignoring our own High Court. And a lot of countries, as you know, in Europe, they do. They just ignore them.
What sort of consequences would we face, just as an example, David, if you know any off the top of your head?
I mean, it depends what we would do. But say, like, for instance, if we look at immigration, when they do the interim orders basically to stop the planes taken off through Rwanda, if we take that as an example, if we just ignored that, then, of course, they would have attempted to have fined us. But that's pretty much it. But then we start, as a lawyer, I think we don't want to open up a gate of a government ignoring laws. I don't think that's a good start, because even if it is a foreign court, if we joined that foreign court, so rather than ignore the rulings of that foreign court, leave. Don't join it and ignore the rulings. Let's just leave. I think that's the way forward.
Now, David, we understand that the total cost of this case is about £240,000. Fuedawale himself has received £7,500 of compensation. But why are the costs so high? And why do you think David Lammy hasn't appealed the ruling?
I think this is one of the other things, Miriam. I think, like I said, it raises various issues, because this, to me, shows negligence on the part of the government lawyers. And the problem, the sad truth is that people that the quality of the lawyers that our government hires in general, I'm not saying everyone, in general, is not the same standard as the likes of the people defending this killer and putting his human rights cases are. So you basically get poor lawyers. Now, if it was obvious from day one that this man was going to win this case, they should have settled earlier on. I know it's very unpalatable to have to do that, but running up £250,000 at least in costs over ultimately getting a £7,000 compensatory payment is ridiculous.
Yeah.
That shouldn't have been allowed to happen.
Yeah, it's totally bonkers, David. I think the British public just expect common sense. They expect that from the courts, they expect that from our politicians, and they expect that from foreign courts as well. I think British people are very pragmatic people, aren't we? We don't mind when we see a ruling that makes sense to us, but it's the way that there's a word I'd like to use, but I'm not going to use it, but the way that the interpretations of the ECHR are now being applied do not make sense in a modern fitting, and I think it needs serious reform, or it's going to have to be a case on which we leave. David, thank you so much for joining us. Human rights lawyer David Hay, bastion of common sense as ever.
That was a really interesting point that David made, Alex, about how the government's lawyers are just probably not as high calibre as lawyers who want to chase either very high-profile cases or financially advantageous cases like in private finance and things like that. And that puts the government at a disadvantage. Well,
Dominic Cummings, obviously former Chief of Staff for the Prime Minister, was talking about this same issue across the entire civil service. We've got a massive lack of talent. All the smart people, the young, smart people go and work in private businesses, because what is there for you in the civil service?
And I think also sometimes the government lawyers are not willing to take a risk because they know that they're funded by the taxpayer, but that sometimes means that they don't push back on things that they really should if they're in the national interest.
They are the government as well, by the way. You can change the law. That is the point of being in government.
Well, I thought that, again, that was a very good point. Don't disobey the law. You know, that's what differentiates us from countries that don't obey the rule of law, but just change it.
Change it, exactly. Anyway.
If only.
Still ahead.
Find out why the poor are becoming poorer under this Labour government and the plan to reverse it.
But up next, we'll have the latest from Switzerland as the first bodies from the fatal ski resort fire have been identified. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Oh no, not quite as cold as the UK. It is still rather unsettled at the moment across the Mediterranean. Storm Francis is bringing rather wet and windy conditions to the Canary Isles, Madeira and even mainland areas of Iberia. Further towards the east, we have further heavy rain and mountain snow that's going to be building across the Balkan region as we head into Saturday as well. These generally unsettled conditions are quite likely to continue as we head throughout the weekend and into next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
I think it's just good, honest, humble food. And yeah, as people get away from the ultra-processed stuff and get back to their roots, and what's better than a good jacket potato?
Do you know what? Sales of jacket spuds have gone through the roof. The big potatoes at Waitrose. There's been a 178% increase in people looking at recipes. And I just think it's wholesome, it's affordable, it's comfortable, you know, it makes you feel good, it's back to basics. That, I think, at the moment, sums up the nation.
I think very much it being affordable as well. With the climate we're living in at the moment, it definitely helps knowing, you know, you're putting food on the table for a reasonable price, and people appreciate that. And it's good, honest food. You can feed your kids, and kids are seeing it on social media, and they're getting excited about it as well. So they're not like, you know, obviously everyone sees all the big brands, and now there's all these, you know, jacket potato people out there, and we're giving them something that's healthy, and they want to eat it. And I think the parents appreciate that.
And Ben, I've seen your videos. They queue around the block to get to you. If people are in the mood to cook a potato tonight, of course, we don't want to affect your sales. What is your sort of top of the pops spud recipe? Give it to us.
Oh, it's all about variety. It's picking the right potato is really important. Get a nice melody or a cara or culture or something like that. Nice and big. In the oven, if you can. Hour and 20. Get a nice crispy skin on there. Loads of butter, loads of cheese, and a nice curry on top or something. That's my go-to.
Ooh. Now that was a final little curveball there you threw at the last minute there, Ben.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 11 minutes to 10. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Well, around 40 people have sadly died and 115 are injured in Switzerland after a fire tore through a crowded bar at the Crans-Montana ski resort.
Well, witnesses say that the ceiling caught fire after a bottle with a lit candle sparked flames while New Year's Eve celebrations were taking place.
We're now joined in the studio by GB News' national reporter, Will Godley. Will, thanks for joining us to give us the latest on this. What's the update we've heard from authorities so far?
Well, the big challenge for authorities this morning is identifying those who are injured and also those who have died, because their burns are so severe, you can't just look at them and see who they are. They're having to use dental records and DNA records to try and identify people, and that's been the big challenge. And authorities telling families today it may take some days or even weeks before they know exactly who has been killed in this tragic fire and who is in hospital at the moment. We have been told today the identity of the first victim who has been named, and he has been named as Emanuele Galappini, a 17-year-old Italian boy who is well known in the golf scene, an up-and-coming golfer who is widely regarded as a promising young talent in the golf world, according to the Golf Digest website. He was also named as one of 4 rising child golfers by the Faldo series earlier this year. And so the Italian Golf Federation have released a statement of Emanuele Galappini's passing, saying they mourn the passing, a young athlete who embodied passion and authentic values. In this time of great sorrow, our thoughts go out to his family and all those who loved him. Emanuele, you will forever remain in our hearts. So he has been named, but for many of the families in Crans-Montana, the wait continues. One mum was speaking on French television this morning saying she has been searching for the last 30 hours for her son. She doesn't know where he is, whether he's in a morgue, in a hospital, and even which country he might be in, because we know many of the injured have been moved to other countries and around Switzerland to receive specialist care for their tragic burns, many of them having to go to France, Italy and Germany as well, because the paediatric wards are very full, and so France and Germany and Italy also helping to treat the victims there, and that tragic wait continues for many of the families.
And we were speaking about this before the show, and you were saying that those who are still alive but in hospital are also sometimes unidentifiable because they're so badly injured. I mean, this has been an extraordinary response by the Swiss, but their hospitals are full and they have issued guidance to their own citizens about not taking too many risks.
Yeah, exactly. Whether that's on the roads or out skiing, at the moment, people in Switzerland told to be sensible and not put any more pressure on hospitals who are dealing across the country, not just in this particular region of Valais, but across the country with a huge number of people injured. There are 115 people injured, and this morning we've been given an update on the state of those injured from the Valais State Councillor, Stéphane Ganza, who said up to 100 people are critically injured, in a critical condition, and he said that situation is evolving, warning that the death toll that he's described as terrible could worsen in the coming days and hours as people continue to receive treatment and are in this critical condition.
Yeah, Will, I can't imagine what's going through the families' heads at the moment, especially because this will inevitably, in my opinion at least, be mostly young people out celebrating New Year's Eve in a lovely part of the world. We still don't know if there's any British nationals as part of this, as far as we're aware. Is that correct, Will?
No, we don't know yet, and I'm sure we won't know until that identification process has been completed. The Foreign Office said they are offering support to anybody who needs it, ready to provide the Swiss authorities with support should that be required. But the big question for the Swiss authorities is, how did this fire start? That's something they still don't know yet. They've said they've got many hypotheses, and the fire experts, as of this morning, hadn't yet been into the basement of the bar where that fire started to really try and establish how this fire started. Many eyewitnesses, though, saying it started when sparklers attached to the top of a champagne bottle were being held too close to the ceiling, where we've seen a picture of a foam board on top of the ceiling which seemed to start and catch fire.
Indeed.
Will, thank you so much for bringing us up to date. An absolutely tragic start to the new year and pretty traumatic for everybody in Switzerland, I think.
Yeah, dreadful time. Godspeed to all those families and people recovering as well. Look, coming up next, we'll tell you about Nigel Farage's shopping list. He's being a big spender apparently this year. That's up next on Britain's Newsroom.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, a very good morning to you. This is your GB News weather updates provided by the Met Office. For some of us heading back to work today, we will need the ice scrapers on hand to get us going. Cold northerly winds coming all the way down from the Arctic are now well in play across all areas of the UK. And we've seen this occluded front just slipping its way across parts of Northern Ireland, Wales and England first thing this morning. So there could be some icy stretches around as you are travelling to work, so do take care there. As that rain, sleet and hill snow clears through there, we will see some sunshine developing for many areas come the afternoon, but further showers just drifting into some eastern coastal regions, and it is going to feel relatively cold out there with a fairly brisk breeze. But the most frequent showers over the next few days are likely for northern areas of Scotland, and an amber snow warning comes into force for areas of the Highlands and the Grampians this evening and overnight into Saturday. 30 to 40 centimetres of snow building up and temporary blizzard conditions with the strong winds that we have around as well. Again, there will be some snow showers continuing this evening for other western and eastern peripheral areas, but inland they're likely to be very clear skies overnight, and underneath those starry scenes temperatures really are set to plummet. The frost will set in very quickly as soon as the sun goes down overnight, and by the time we reach the end of the night into the early hours of Saturday morning, a severe frost, potentially as low as -10 degrees Celsius in parts of Scotland, particularly where we do have some snow cover around. So a very bitterly cold start to the weekend for all of us. Into tomorrow, we'll likely see a few more of those wintry showers just drift into eastern areas of England, and so there is another snow and ice warning that comes into force here throughout Saturday. But again, if you are inland away from those, there will be a decent amount of sunshine if you want to get outside, but it's still going to be feeling very cold with that brisk breeze in play. Most of us not seeing temperatures higher than much of 2 or 3 degrees Celsius. Those cold conditions will continue into Sunday as well and into the start of next week. Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News every week.
You're not only watching and listening to our programmes, you're becoming part of them too.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. In Scotland, the A93 is closed at the snow gates between Braemar and Spittal of Glenshie due to adverse weather. In Staffordshire, on the M6 northbound between Junction 15 and Junction 16, a crash is blocking one of 3 lanes, improving between 4:15 and 4:30 this afternoon. In Leicestershire, the A46 southbound between the A606 and the junction with the A6006 is shut after a vehicle incident, easing between 10 and 10:15 this morning. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast has major engineering work between Milton Keynes Central and Northampton or Rugby, and Cross Country has major engineering work in the Cambridge area. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
We want to make the new year your best year yet, with a chance to win our greatest cash prize to date. A simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Treat the family to that bucket list holiday you've always fancied. Get your dream car you've always wanted. Or just relax, safe in the knowledge that the coming year is on us. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. It's 10 o'clock on Friday, the 2nd of January. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Alex Armstrong and Miriam Cates.
Well, an Islamist killer is handed £240,000 in taxpayer cash after the Justice Secretary David Lammy settles a human rights claim over his treatment in prison.
And around 40 people are now known to have died and 115 seriously injured following a fire in a bar at a popular Swiss tourist spot. Authorities are trying to identify the victims.
Well, the first victim has been named as 17-year-old Emanuele Galoppini, described as an up-and-coming golfer.
I know many across Britain are still struggling with the cost of living. Helping with that is my priority.
It's perhaps stating the obvious, but new figures show Britain's poorest families have grown poorer under Labour. Well, I thought this government wanted to raise living standards for everyone.
As we look forward to 2026, we have a massive set of elections. The whole of Scotland, the whole of Wales, all 32.
Well, is he a big spender? Nigel Farage has vowed to go double or quits on May's local elections with a huge spending spree of £5 million.
That's right, fresh after netting a £9 million donation. He's spending $5 million of that on a double or quits bid to get the vote out in May's local and assembly elections.
And 6 people have died in Iran after police have opened fire on protesters defying a regime crackdown. That's as nationwide arrest escalates. We'll have the latest on that.
I do think it's a win for black cab drivers because, like you say, it's evening up the level of the playing field now. The fares are going to go up.
Everybody should pay their fair share of the tax, no? Including the big boys.
Black cab drivers have told GB News that they're delighted at a new tax hike for online minicab firms as the Chancellor promises to protect everyday cabbies.
And it's going to be a chilly start to 2026 as snow begins to fall in some parts and travel disruption is expected. Let us know if you've got snow in your area.
Alex, I absolutely love snow, and as a child in Yorkshire we had at least 1 or 2 snow days every year where school was closed. Live in Suffolk now, haven't seen any snow since I moved there, but it does make you think about Switzerland, where of course there is masses of snow often. I remember being on holiday in Switzerland once and 12 inches of snow fell overnight and then it was instantly cleared and the traffic could continue. I mean, their infrastructure is incredible, and that's, to be honest, that's probably helped them in the response to this awful tragedy.
Good point. And in this country, when there's a little bit of snow, everything grinds to a halt. I know the school days were great when you used to get the school days off for snow, but I'm sure for parents it's their worst nightmare because they've still got to get to work somehow.
Yeah.
It just feels like whenever there's a little bit of extreme heat, it's not even extreme, is it? It's 30 degrees. This whole country grinds to a halt, and I just think, how do countries like Russia do it all year round? They manage to operate, don't they?
That's right, and also there seems to be this growing trend of warning people constantly about the weather, whether it's extreme rain, extreme wind, extreme snow. I mean, don't we have enough common sense to work out for ourselves what we need to wear and what precautions we need to take?
What was it? Snow bomb was the one we had last year, snow bomb. It gets crazier every year, doesn't it? Well, what do you think at home? Do you think we've gone all nuts about the weather? Send your views and your comments into gbnews.com/your say. But first, we're going to get your news with Sophia Wensler.
Miriam, Alex, thank you and good morning. It's just gone 10 o'clock. These are your headlines. The first victim of a bar fire in the Swiss ski resort of Crans, Montana, has been named as Emanuele Galoppini, an Italian teen golfer. The Italian Golf Federation confirmed the news in the last few hours. Around 40 people are dead and 115 injured after a fire tore through the Constellation Bar as people celebrated the turn of the year. Most of the victims of the fire are thought to be young people, but identification of the bodies is expected to take several days at least. Witnesses say the ceiling caught fire after a bottle with a lit candle sparked flames whilst New Year's Eve celebrations were taking place. Switzerland's President Guy Parmelin described the incident as one of the worst tragedies our country has ever known. Meanwhile, King Charles called it a horrific disaster. The UK's poorest households are worse off since Labour took power, according to new figures from Retail Economics. Spare cash left over after bills and essential spending for the least affluent households has shrunk by 2.1% since Labour was elected in July 2024. In contrast, the UK's most affluent households climbed by 10.3%. Now, an Islamist killer has been handed £7,500 in compensation by the High Court over breaches of his human rights. The move was agreed by Justice Secretary David Lammy, and the taxpayers will foot the £234,000 legal bill. Double murderer Fawad Awali was transferred to a special separation unit for the country's most dangerous prisoners. He claimed his segregation, designed to prevent him harming officers and radicalising other inmates, had breached his right to a private life under Article 8 of the European Convention on Human Rights. Now, some breaking news. 2 Albanian men have been charged after a pedestrian in his 80s died in a hit and run. The man was hit by a grey Mercedes in Gillingham, Kent, and carried on the top of it for as much as a mile. 28-year-old Albert Matruhu and 29-year-old Errol Paki will appear in court today. A chickenpox vaccine for all young children is being rolled out on the NHS for the first time. It will be given along with the MMR jab, which protects against measles, mumps and rubella. The NHS says the jab will keep more kids in school and their parents won't have to take time off work to look after them. It will also save the NHS an expected £15 million a year.
While chickenpox can be irritable and difficult for children, it can also be extremely serious and occasionally even fatal. The great thing about this new vaccine is that it combines the vaccine for chickenpox with MMR, which means that families can access this jab for their children aged between 12 and 18 months. It's going to make a real difference. It's going to reach so many children and young people, keeping them healthy, making sure their parents don't have to take weeks off work, dealing with an irritable and unwell child.
The Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, speaking there. Now, in other news, black cab drivers have told GB News they're delighted about a new tax hike for online minicab firms. The crackdown, first announced by the Chancellor in November's budget, will bring the tax paid by the likes of Uber and Bolt in line with that of black cabs, after years of campaigning from taxi drivers and their representatives.
I do think it's a win for black cab drivers because, like you say, it's evening up the level of the playing field now. The fares are going to go up.
Everybody should pay their fair share of the tax, no? Including the big boys.
It's going to be a chilly start to 2026 with cold Arctic winds bringing snow and ice to Britain. A yellow weather warning for snow and ice is in place throughout this morning for an area covering London, Greater Manchester and Cardiff. Meanwhile, an amber snow warning is in place for northern Scotland, which begins at midday. And the daughter of Academy Award-winning actor Tommy Lee Jones has reportedly been found dead on New Year's Day. 34-year-old Victoria Jones was pronounced dead in the early hours of yesterday morning in a San Francisco hotel, according to US media reports. Victoria is the daughter of Jones and his second wife, Kimberly Clofley, whom he was married to from 1981 to 1996. The cause of her death remains unknown. Those are the latest GB News headlines. I'll have more for you in half an hour.
Hello and welcome back. This is Britain's Newsroom. We are live across the United Kingdom here on GB News with Alex and Miriam.
Well, as always, we'd love to know what you think about all the topics that we're discussing today. So send your views and post your comments to gbnews.com/your say.
And our political editor, Christopher Hope, is joining us in the studio to tell us about this massive spending spree that the leader of Reform UK, Nigel Farage, is going on. Chris, it's quite a lot of money, isn't it?
Yes, Happy New Year to you both.
Happy New Year.
Great to see you. I last saw you, of course, from our sitting room on New Year's Eve.
Glad we can all remember that.
That was the great...
Yeah.
Let's park that for Twitter, but that was a great night. So Nigel Farage raised £9 million from a guy called Chris Harborne, this millionaire, clearly. He's going to spend £5 million of that on leaflets by direct mail to outer London, the so-called donut around London, and every household in Scotland and Wales. That, to me, is interesting. That says where he thinks he can win most votes. The donut is the area which voted heavily for Boris Johnson when he won those elections to be the Mayor of London. And Scotland or Wales, of course, is where Farage will make or break his reputation in May. That's where he could even, bizarrely, control the levers of power or win power in both.
Yeah, and how much difference really does money make in elections, Chris? Because we obviously hear before, I mean, Nigel Farage has complained that when he's tried to win seats before, the Tories have thrown the kitchen sink, so to speak, spending lots of money to keep him out of office. Does it really make much difference?
Well, by his own account, by his interview in today's Times newspaper, he's spending it on leafleting, which is the old-fashioned way, which Miriam, remember when you were an MP, that's how you do it. But he's also spending money on social media. Last May's elections, he sent out text messages saying, "Vote for me today, all the best, Nigel." So people give in their mobile phones when he collects data. They then get personal texts from the leader. Of course, they're not really from him, they're from a computer, but they're signed by Nigel Farage. And that connects, I think, the voter to him, because essentially this party is really Nigel Farage and the voter. That's the main relationship. Everyone else in that party is secondary to him. As long as he is still going and making the weather, he will win support.
I think the Labour Party have assumed that Farage and Reform are already winning the war of social media. Certainly Nigel Farage's TikTok presence and connection with younger people is outclassing the Labour Party. From what I was reading in the papers this morning, Labour are going to try to refresh that strategy, but you wonder what message are they trying to send to young people?
Well, that's the heart, I think, of the whole problem with the Labour government. What are they trying to do? They won power the election now 18 months ago with the promise not to be the Tories, and then that was about it. Well, what are they to stand for? They appear to be folding on any big row they start. They fold on it with the pensioners, with family farmers just before Christmas, with the benefits debate, with its own backbenchers. What do they stand for apart from being a caretaker government? I think that's the problem they've got. And now we've got this row over this Christmas break with this Egyptian coming back to the UK. Of course, he can do. He's a British citizen, but given what he said in the past, why he's allowed in the country? But that falls to both the Tories and Labour to defend that, and of course Reform is winning on that argument too.
And the jewel in the crown perhaps will be not just in the local elections here, but the Welsh Senate as well, because this is a place where if Reform can take that, they will be governing the first change of government, I guess, in the Welsh Parliament.
And they could take it because of this new system called the D'Hondt voting system. Essentially, you pilot your votes and you get a proportion of votes equal number of AMs or members of the Senate, and that's why you can't vote. You can't just tacitly vote against Farage. He simply, the numbers of votes he gets, he wins. I should say before I go, there's a guy called Paul Ovenden, who was Keir Starmer's strategy director. He's quit before Christmas with some ill-advised historic tweets, but he's written a piece in today's Times newspaper which he takes apart Whitehall. He talks about a complex coalition of campaign groups, regulators, litigators, trade bodies and well-networked organisations which stop the government doing anything. So this is the Labour's excuse now, is it's being stopped often by NGOs, campaign groups, celebrity letter writing, that kind of thing, the so-called blob. He sounds exactly like Dominic Cummings. Exactly like Dominic Cummings. In fact, some of the language is almost similar. He called it the blob. He calls it the stakeholder society state. I've been told by former government advisers that the blob essentially is lots of well-meaning politicians passing regulations and rules to deal with the current situation, but in fact it binds ministers in a thicket of brambles. They can't do anything when they come to power, and that's what we're seeing with Labour right now.
Well, it sounds like Labour are recognising exactly what the Conservatives found, which is that our bureaucracy is now so thick, all that seems to matter is the process. Nobody really cares about the outcome, and it's impossible to achieve anything. What will be really interesting, though, Chris, is Reform have spotted this problem. They are trying to work out how they would cut the size of the state, how they would cut through civil service bureaucracy. But it's going to be an extraordinarily difficult task.
That's why Danny Kruger's gone in. He's going to be writing the rules on how this government, this reform government, if it wins power, will run the show. But yeah, I mean, can it work? And they will be up against, I mean, you know, old days it was seen as the left-leaning Whitehall blob, wasn't it? Well, it's not really left-leaning, it's basically anti what voters want. So we as voters vote in governments, we should expect them to do what they want to do, not to be frustrated by vested interests. And that's what Paul Overton is saying in today's Times.
Well, it causes this massive vacuum of people feeling like democracy works. You see this massive rise in people who want a benevolent dictatorship, I mean, which would be horrendous, which is basically what we seem to have in the bureaucracy of Britain in some way. Or anyway, I don't know.
That's how it works. That's how a weak government, I think, can pass things like the family farms tax, can try and deal with me assessing the triple lock. These are ideas that the Treasury will offer up, but politicians will go, well, that's not going to land very well. And as it is, they're picking off interest groups, and the big row this first quarter of this year is about pubs. I just can't see how they'll allow those big increases in rates to go through.
Christopher Hope.
Chris, thank you very much. And I should clarify that when I said we have thick bureaucracy, I don't mean bureaucrats thick. I meant that there are many layers.
It's a thicket.
A thicket, that would have been a better word.
I might have said that, though. Anyway, time for the Great British Giveaway now, and 2026 could be on us with an incredible 85 grand to be won. It's like having 7 grand a month in your bank to spend throughout the year. Here's how it could be yours with Hayley Sparks.
It's a brand new year and we're giving you the chance to win our biggest cash prize to date. £85,000 in tax-free cash to make your new year the best yet.
And we've come to the Aurora Collection Resort here in Lapland to celebrate.
Imagine what the coming year could look like for you with a whopping £85,000 in the bank.
You can have the complete Lapland experience all in one place by visiting the Northern Lights Village.
Or just safe in the knowledge that this year is on us.
An incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours.
For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 9th of February 2026. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, coming up next, and this will come as no surprise to regular viewers of this channel, but small boat arrivals jumped by 13% last year. Will things get any better this year?
We'll be going through that and more with broadcasters Carol Malone. Oh, it's not Carol Malone.
No, it's not. It's Claire Muldoon.
It's Claire Muldoon. Who put that in my Oscar? And Judita De Silva. Can't wait to see you both. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk then? No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Well, you're absolutely right. Spot on. I couldn't help feeling that perhaps it was actually just a joke, and they were going to come back in 2 years' time and say, we took you all in. It was, in fact, a joke. Now we're going to produce something more serious, because it's absolutely hilarious and ridiculous. Commercial suicide, I described it as.
Well, the individual behind it is no more. What would you like to see from the brand, presumably not people with asymmetric haircuts in pink dresses with sledgehammers doing precisely zero to do with cars?
Well, again, absolutely. You're spot on. I mean, it's just totally unrelated to cars at all. There wasn't even a car in the advert. Jaguar was built on style And that brought passion for cars. That's what made them different. I remember many years ago, a Jaguar executive in the States saying to me, people say, I like my Mercedes, but I love my Jaguar. It's all about passion. Style engendered that. That's what we've got to have. We need to see a proper, more traditional, stylish, real Jaguar that can build on the brand and the heritage of the past.
OK, Philip Paulson, I'm going to put you on the spot now. If you're in charge of the next Jaguar advert, what would it look like?
As diametrically opposite and different as it possibly could be from what they produced. I suppose, I mean, I live a little in the past, I admit, although I also think I'm hopefully realistic about the current situation and everything, the present. But I'd like to see the heritage shown. Jaguar were not afraid to talk in the past about their heritage, the Le Mans wins back in the 50s, the E-Type in the 60s. This is what added excitement and luster to the brand.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Alex and Miriam.
Well, to discuss some of the big news in today's paper, we're joined by the studio by journalists and broadcasters Claire Muldoon and Judita De Silva. Good morning, ladies. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Nice to see you. We're just been remarking how empty the studio looks without the massive Christmas trees. It's a bit. I always find it's a bit sad.
It is.
Well, let's start with some equally sad news. Small boat arrivals jumped 13%. Last year. Claire, it's not looking good for Labour's plans to smash the gangs.
No, it's really, really not. Remember Yvette Cooper standing up saying she was going to smash those gangs, smash the business model, which really has to be done. But they clearly have done nothing about it. And the thing that really gets me is if we look at the pictures of these boats coming in, they're not full of asylum seekers. They're not full of refugees. They're full of young men of fighting age, not emaciated in any way, shape or form, and young men and young boys. Where is the parity in all of that? Where is the equality in all of that? What are we going to do with them? Where are we going to put them? We heard 2 days ago that the Labour government was piloting a scheme for quite a few local authorities to build more houses to accommodate the asylum seekers. Well, I'm sorry. First things first, sort out your own backyard before you go and build houses for anyone else. They've got hundreds of people in this country falling through the cracks, families in temporary accommodation because local authorities cannot get their acts together. We've got thank goodness they abolished the child benefit cap because that then might bring some families up to some level of affordability. But this is awful, and this is right on the back of the Labour government's manifesto, and it's right on the back of what Labour are trying to do at the moment. They're trying, and they're succeeding in killing this country.
Yeah, Judita, this is very bad news for Labour. They promised they'd get on top of smashing the gangs, stopping the boats, whatever you want to call it. It's all the same thing, isn't it? But the second highest year since the influx we first saw, which we were completely unprepared for. We've had years to get on top of this. They've had years to have a proposal. People will be now looking at things like the Rwanda scheme and saying, well, actually, maybe you were wrong to just shut all these things down on your first day in office, considering you've had the biggest jump since the first year of this all happening?
I think, first of all, the numbers are bleak, but then at the same time, you've got to actually give the Shabana Mahmood time for all the plans she has in place to take hold, because it can't work overnight. And the fact that she's got these new partnerships happening with Europe, particularly with Germany, who are now, they're going to, like they said, smash the gangs, where you're making it. They want to bring in a law that you can spend up to 10 years in jail if you aid the traffickers. Then you've also got that she's adopted that Eastern European model of what she's going to do, where you don't get automatic housing, you don't get automatic funding, you're not going to be put into like the houses that you've just mentioned, by being stricter and making it feel that when you come here, it's not an easy ride. She's responding to what people have saying. They have been listening, but it's going to take time to take effect. Give them that time to prove it. Then should, in 6 months' time, if you haven't seen numbers come out, come down, have the kind of reaction you're having now.
The grim reality is these numbers will not go down. Because as long as we're in the cuckold of the AHCR, etc., 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 and, you know, human rights bills, etc., we are strangled by those laws in this country in trying to deal with this. And as long as they're still present, these asylum seekers will still be present. These economic migrants will still be present.
But what always baffles me is that everyone has the rhetoric of everything's so dire, everything's so dire. Whoever is in power has to do something. They are doing something. Let's see if it works. Because what they've done before had failed, and all the criticism is justified. What they're doing now, we have seen, worked well in Amsterdam. So let it actually work here. Give it a chance to work here.
Judita, the volume of people, the volume of men coming over far exceeds the issues that Amsterdam had, and is continuing to have. Rishi Sunak made the same statement that Shabina Mahmood made years ago, and nothing was changed.
No one has done what she has done. What she has done is unprecedented.
The only plan that managed to succeed in dropping any numbers was the Rwanda
When you say
programme.
dropping any numbers, in the past year they've sent back 50,000 people. Yes, it's just a drop in the ocean.
Not one in, one out.
Yeah, but it's just a drop in the ocean. But numbers are moving.
It should
give
be
her a chance to actually.
Judith, can I just ask you from the political point of view? Do you think 2025 was the year in which actually left and right started to see this issue in a similar way? Because I think before Labour got into power, the view on the left was that this isn't really a problem, or rather the problem is just that people don't like housing asylum seekers in hotels because of the cost. Do you think actually being in power has made the Labour Party and the left see that actually this is a big deal and we cannot allow this to continue?
No, what I think, it actually goes to another story that we might discuss about the Trade Union Congress new president, is that what has happened is the rise of the populist right has taken hold, because nothing unifies people like a common enemy. And you've presented this problem, which is a justifiable problem, as the root of all evil. It's kind of like the Brexit 2.0. What Labour is doing is Labour has become a party that's very reactionary. So you wouldn't know in organic circumstances the kind of Labour Party actions we would be seeing now. You have a big problem that's been attached to a negative rhetoric that's having an effect on the people at large. You've got to react, and that's why we're seeing the kind of Labour we're seeing now.
Let's talk about the trade unions, because they are in the mirror today saying the far-right's poison is dangerously invading workforces, including hospitals, schools and prisons. The new TUC president has said, Claire, and I'm just so sick of hearing this far-right narrative.
Yeah.
They're saying that all of a sudden, essentially what I call the far-right, my
common sense.
Yeah, well, that's what they are today.
Yeah.
But these people seem to think that the far-right, I would call far-right Nazis, right? So they're saying that as Nazis, is what I would call them, are invading schools, prisons, hospitals. It is utterly ridiculous. People are fed up in this country. They want change. They're not getting the change they constantly voted for the last 15 years now. And that's why these people seem to think that the far-right are across the country somehow.
I remember last year echoing exactly that same message, Alex, on GBNews, and I really took umbrage to people explaining and pointing fingers at people on the far right. If you've got far anything, you need right opposite. You need the absolute pushing force against it. What would that be? Far left? But you don't seem to band that around anymore. It's
because the right wing don't talk about the far left. Because we don't slander people on the left. We might disagree with them, but we might disagree with their ideas. We don't disagree with them as people. This is basically.
You do slander us. You do call us like woke, lefty, liberal, extremist. You do have all the rhetoric.
Woke, I would say, is an idea. It's an ideology.
First of all, it's not. The whole point that it's a whole different conversation.
The point is, just not to get away from it, is that this is fear mongering, isn't it? And it's trying to slander people who are perhaps reform voters, which is what he's going after.
No, but then listen to what he's actually saying. Steve Gillen, the new president of the TUC, and I give him credit for this because it's a conversation that has to be had. He's drawn a very pertinent parallel, because when you look, because in my degree, this is what we studied. We looked at the early writings of Hitler. What did he say? Germany was in economic strife, and he correlated correlated that to the financial stability that the Jewish community had and say they're the problem. Nothing unifies people like a common enemy. We are in economic strife. People are hurting and they want to know where it's coming from. He's not pointing them to the government. He's not pointing them to the rich. He's pointing them to the others. Once you've othered a community, you've got the perfect enemy and you point their anger at them, because you are completely right. Every day people are justified in how they feel, and a frustration needs an outlet, but it is irresponsible of people, like certain people within parties like Reform, and he also mentioned social media activists and also foreign interference, that you're steering people to hate what is not the root of their suffering, and that is how you end up with a situation that has got a very close parallel to what Hitler did in the early years.
I would love to think that was at the basis of what he said here, but fundamentally I don't believe you. I don't think that is the case here. I think he is jumping on the bandwagon of, you know, the reform upsurge in this country, the rise of the populist vote, which covers every minority in class,
he wasn't even
colour,
mentioning that,
and everything, and it covers both sexes, and because there are only two, and it just covers absolutely everyone in this country that wants change.
No, that's why I say it's very important. Do not misquote him. It's very important to see. He talked about social media activists. He talked about foreign interference, and he called about Reform UK. No, because what he's saying, and he put the responsibility on himself, that it is the work of the Labour government and trade unions to infiltrate the misinformation that's going to the workforce, because who feels it the most right now? It's the everyday working person, and those are the people that fall under his remit. So that's why I say what he did was very important, because he took the responsibility on himself, identified a problem, and showed the potential outcome if it's not addressed now.
Steve Gillen is on a recruitment drive at the moment because of Angela Rayner's employment rights that are coming in, that are actually in now. And he is looking at membership, and he wants more members. And the more members the trades union has, is more of a buffer to put Angela Rayner in number 10 and coincide with
not
absolutely
necessarily, because he said members of unions are, he said a growing percentage of members of unions are leaning towards reform. So whoever he brings on could still vote for reform.
That as a pejorative term?
He's not. He's saying that he recognises the opinions of the people within the union. So him having a drive doesn't exactly drive off the popularity with his point of view either.
Well, Julita, do you think, though, that the Labour Party is mischaracterising reform or misunderstanding them? Because certainly if you look at some of the so-called populist parties in Europe, they have a genuine populist agenda. They're right on culture, but they're also very into big state spending, high taxes, spending lots of money. Look at Marine Le Pen, for example. But Farage's Reform Party is not like that. They've actually taken a much more traditional, small c conservative approach to economics, certainly in recent months. They are not populist, as the term might be sometimes used.
But that's a point again, and I give credit again to Steve Gillen, where he was mindful of making a point that what reform is offering an outlet to people who have not the same agenda as essentially what reform is presenting. What you have is, if you believe in the nation first, if you believe in helping the economy, if you believe in helping the working man, that's a beautiful thing. But then the rhetoric around it, which galvanizes people, is one that stokes hate. Therefore, people with a negative agenda see an outlet. Like every movement that happens, there will always be people that co-opt it for a negative agenda, and that is what is happening with reform.
It's very rich for people on the left to say that, when we've seen Palestine activists who have said disgusting things on the streets of Britain, who have caused no end to hatred towards Jewish people, who I think are making our country a very dangerous place to live for Jews. It's very easy to point the finger at Reform, who are just pointing out things like, you know, not all cultures are necessarily equal, and that actually GDP per capita since mass migration has led to people being poor in this country. People might find that hateful, but actually what it is a fact. And for the TUC not to call out the own issues, who are, I would say, if you're going to call people like Reform the far right, then the TUC and all these people are the far left, who are not calling up people on their own side. It is just political spite, and unfortunately, because they're on the losing side, they're getting more and more reprehensible with the words that in the rhetoric that they use, and it's actually causing more division. But there we go, that's my opinion. Anyway, look, we've got to leave it there, fortunately. We'll see you back.
I see what you did there.
He ran down the clock like
That's how we'll leave it. I've run down the clock to the last word. But you two will be back with us very shortly, and we'll talk more about this story, because I know you're saying...
Alex will be back soon.
Had to get it in there. Here's your 6-second news update with Sophia Wensler.
Alex, Miriam, thank you. Your headlines at 10:33. The first victim of a bar fire in the Swiss ski resort of Crans, Montana has been named as Emanuele Galoppini, an Italian teen golfer. Around 40 people are dead and 115 injured after the fire tore through the Constellation Bar as people celebrated the turn of the year. The UK's FTSE 100 has risen above 10,000 points for the first time, reaching a major milestone. An Islamist killer has been handed £7,500 in compensation by the High Court over breaches of his human rights, and taxpayers will foot the £234,000 legal bill. A chickenpox vaccine for all young children is being rolled out on the NHS today for the first time. And it's going to be a chilly start to 2026 with cold Arctic winds bringing snow and ice to Britain. A yellow weather warning for snow and ice is in place throughout the morning for an area covering London, Greater Manchester and Cardiff. Those are your headlines for now. I'll have more news for you at the top of the hour.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Well, coming up next, will things get better for the Labour Party this year? Well, Sir Keir Starmer certainly hopes so, but we'll be debating that next. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Hello there, and a very good morning to you. This is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. For some of us heading back to work today, we will need the ice scrapers on hand to get us going. Cold northerly winds coming all the way down from the Arctic are now well in play across all areas of the UK. And we've seen this occluded front just slipping its way across parts of Northern Ireland, Wales and England first thing this morning. So there could be some icy stretches around as you are travelling to work, so do take care there. As that rain, sleet and hill snow clears through there, we will see some sunshine developing for many areas come the afternoon, but further showers just drifting into some eastern coastal regions, and it is going to feel relatively cold out there with a fairly brisk breeze. But the most frequent showers over the next few days are likely for northern areas of Scotland, and an amber snow warning comes into force for areas of the Highlands and the Grampians this evening and overnight into Saturday. 30 to 40 centimetres of snow building up and temporary blizzard conditions with the strong winds that we have around as well. Again, there will be some snow showers continuing this evening for other western and eastern peripheral areas, but inland they're likely to be very clear skies overnight, and underneath those starry scenes temperatures really are set to plummet. The frost will set in very quickly as soon as the sun goes down overnight, and by the time we reach the end of the night into the early hours of Saturday morning, a severe frost, potentially as low as -10 degrees Celsius in parts of Scotland, particularly where we do have some snow cover around. So a very bitterly cold start to the weekend for all of us. Into tomorrow, we'll likely see a few more of those wintry showers just drift into eastern areas of England, and so there is another snow and ice warning that comes into force here throughout Saturday. But again, if you are inland away from those, there will be a decent amount of sunshine if you want to get outside, but it's still going to be feeling very cold with that brisk breeze in play. Most of us not seeing temperatures higher than much of 2 or 3 degrees Celsius. Those cold conditions will continue into Sunday as well and into the start of next week. Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
Thank you for making us Britain's #1 news channel. Together, we have built something truly extraordinary.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. The A93 is closed at the snow gates between Braemar and Spittal of Glenshie due to severe weather. On the M6 northbound between Junction 15 and Junction 16, a crash is blocking one of 3 lanes with disruption expected into the afternoon. On the A42 northbound between Junction 14 and the M1, an accident has closed one of 2 lanes, easing close to midday. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast has major engineering work between Milton Keynes Central and Northampton or Rugby, while Cross Country has major engineering work in the Cambridge area. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Alex Armstrong and Miriam Cates.
Well, new figures reveal that the UK's poorest households are actually worse off since Labour took power.
And it's set to get even bleaker, with families across the country facing an income bracket squeeze on their finances as higher bills and taxes rise this year.
And the data from Retail Economics shows that the UK's most affluent households are faring best under the Labour government.
So will Labour make things better this year?
Well, joining us now is former Labour advisor Kevin Marr and political commentator Emma Trimble. Good morning to you both and a happy new year.
And to you.
Thanks for joining us. Good morning. Now, I understand that the figures are basically a reflection on inflation. And if inflation goes up, then disposable incomes go down, and they go down more proportionally as your income gets smaller. Is that the root of this problem?
I think that's pretty much the nub of it. We're in that kind of period where 18 months into a new government, lots of things that it's trying to do haven't fed through yet. And I think we'll probably see as the year goes on, when inflation's set to fall, interest rates are set to fall, and some of the changes that have taken place in Rachel Reeves' two budgets will probably kick in, and that position will kind of resolve itself. But it's not great. I suspect people coming into Downing Street at the start of a new year, having listened to Keir Starmer's New Year message, where he talked about the importance of delivery this year and positive change. I can imagine the pep talk in Number 10 is something akin to this is last chance saloon in some respects. We've got to make positive change. We've got to make a difference. We've got to be seen to make a difference early-ish in 2026, or the gig might be up for Keir Starmer. So the pressure will be on to say, look, we've got to double down. We've got to do whatever we're doing. We're not doing enough of it, and we've got to do new things as well. We've got to turn a corner, and that includes the centre of that is addressing the cost of living crisis, which has been going on for a long time, since probably 2008 onwards. Really, household incomes have been squeezed, and we've not as individuals, as families, as communities, we've not felt the benefits of economic growth. That's got to change, and I think that's not lost on Keir Starmer, and I think that's going to be his big focus for the first part of 2026.
All very good and well said, but Emma, the reality is that growth is pretty much null and void in Britain at the moment, and we've just had a budget that is going to make growth even more difficult, given that taxes are going up. Do we expect to see this, the poor getting even poorer this year as a result of all of those economic decisions?
Absolutely. I mean, it's all part of this bigger picture. So, this is a sign of the economy flatlining. This is not good for anyone in society. What we've seen in the last budget is the government consistently taxing the productive parts of the economy in order to fund the unproductive parts of the economy, shuffling hard-earned taxpayer money to more and more welfare, previously, to increase public sector pay rises. The last budget particularly is so harmful to business. We saw this also with Labour's U-turn on national insurance earlier in their government. This is attacking those who are making the money. It's making young people want to leave. It's making anyone who's aspirational, anyone who wants to build a business. It's making it much harder for them. It's making it much harder for businesses to continue to employ people, to employ new people. And it's crushing the aspirations of the young. And what this also does is it has the effect of decreasing trust and stability in our economy. The fact that the government keeps saying one thing and then doing another means that people aren't going to want to invest in this country. People aren't going to buy that new house, set up that company, because they don't trust this government. They don't know what's going to happen. And so I think, and it's also, and I would add to that man doesn't live by bread alone. There is a lot more to the failure of this government than just economics. I think it's very likely that next year we will see Keir Starmer being defenestrated and replaced by someone even further to the left, which will be much worse for the country.
Now, Emma, of course, you may be right, but let's focus in on the real issue in this story, which is that wages are being eroded by inflation, and the lower your wage, the greater proportion of it will be lost to inflation. So, Kevin, let's bring you in again here. It doesn't really matter what the government does in terms of growth and redistribution if they can't control inflation. Inflation is the biggest tax, and it's a tax that no one ever votes for.
Absolutely. Thankfully, inflation looks like it's going to be falling in the first half of 2026. That's a good thing. But we've got lots of problems underlying that in our economy. We've got lots of inequalities in our economy. We've got a long lag of low productive jobs that we've had in this country for a very long time. We've got a very high structural cost of living. We've got housing costs, of course, which are astronomical, and that's the fault of successive governments. It's not laying the blame at anyone in particular, but that's the lot we've got in this country, and unpicking that and creating a better level playing field for people is a long-term project. Now, unfortunately, that's not how politics works. The candle burns very quickly in politics, and you've got to make change. And this is Keir Starmer's, I think, central frustration, which there was a glimmer of his frustrations when he is speaking before the Commons Committee a few weeks ago, where, again, as ministers often find, when you press buttons and pull levers on the dashboard of the state, nothing happens, or nothing happens very quickly. And I think that's going to be a big challenge for 2026. Expect a Keir Starmer speech about reform of the state, because this is where we probably agree that the state now, the size of the state, the shape of the state, is now a live issue in British politics, and being able to spend where we need to spend, in terms of proper social spending and proper infrastructure and all the rest of it, but also trying to cut spending in other areas as well. That's going to become a theme that Labour politicians, I think, increasingly talk about, which will be quite new, really. And often they don't really bother very much about these things. But the size and shape of the state and the effectiveness of the state, I think, is going to be a big theme for 2026.
Well, it's good to see that Labour have finally caught up with the country on that one, Kevin. But Emma, when it comes to the poor getting poorer, a common theme, of course, is our terrible GDP per capita, which is always suppressed by cheap labour coming in from foreign countries, of course. Emma, when will we start having that conversation inside the Labour Party, or do you not think that politically they are likely to have it?
Well, I think the difficulty is that this government are being pressured primarily from the left within their own ranks. And so anything that they do, even if they were to, have a much more reasonable conversation about the effects of mass migration, and, talking about the size of the state there, just the sheer amount of money that we're spending on putting up people who are coming here illegally is a huge issue for the British public. I think it's probably one of the primary reasons why the Labour Party are polling so badly. This is the most unpopular prime minister in our political history. The chances of him staying on for longer and holding on for dear life depends on him quelling the dissatisfaction from the left of his party, and so I think that we'll see a bit more of that in the coming year. But I don't know how much longer he will be able to hold on for.
Well, Emma Trimble and Kevin Marr, thank you so much for joining us for that debate this morning. Alex, I think this is such a serious issue, inflation. I don't know what you like to do in your spare time, but one of my favourite websites is the Bank of England's inflation calculator.
It's not quite how I spend my spare time, I have to admit.
Bear with me. Now, we think of inflation as inevitable, but it absolutely isn't. And if you had a basket of goods costing £100 in 1750, that same basket of goods in 1900, so 150 years later, would cost you £180. So £100, right, you'd need 180. Now, if you had a basket of goods in 1970 worth £100, guess how much that you'd now need?
I've just seen your screen. Go on, tell people.
£1,383.
Crazy.
We're talking 12,000% inflation. Inflation is a new thing. It's because governments spend too much, because central banking hasn't worked, and basically our money is being devalued each and every year. It's tax, it's robbery. Why aren't we outraged by it? It wasn't a thing in the past.
We should be, and we just borrowed. The Chancellor's just borrowed over £100 billion more pounds.
Exactly, which
and so
adds to inflation.
Future tax for young people who are going to work and they're going to just leave. They're just going to leave Britain.
And the Bank of England and other central banks set interest rates how they want to manipulate markets rather than the true value of money. It's inflation that we should be outraged by, not taxation.
Very quick question for you. Do you think we should take back control of... Yeah, I'm going to go on that a little bit more often, actually. That's my spare time gone.
There you go.
Do you think we should take back control of the Bank of England politically?
No, but I think that interest rates should be set by the market and not by central banking, because interest rates are essentially a price. They're saying how much money is available to be spent and borrowed. And it doesn't give a true indicator because they just set it for political reasons.
Yeah.
If you reduce interest rates, what it should mean is that there's more savings available. It's not true. Sorry, a particular bugbear of mine, but honestly, inflation is theft. I'm being told to be quiet by the director now.
Here's the travel weather.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Although not quite as cold as the UK, it is still rather unsettled at the moment across the Mediterranean. Storm Francis is bringing rather wet and windy conditions to the Canary Isles, Madeira and even mainland areas of Iberia. Further towards the east, we have further heavy rain and mountain snow that's going to be building across the Balkan region as we head into Saturday as well. These generally unsettled conditions are quite likely to continue as we head throughout the weekend and into next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, DC.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Brave.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Welcome back. We're joined in the studio now by GB News' national reporter Will Godley, who's bringing us an update on what's happening in Switzerland. Will.
Well, yeah, police still on the scene there at Le Constellation Bar. They've loosened their cordon in the last few minutes, so journalists on the scene, their cameras allowed to get a little bit closer to the bar after that fire on New Year's Eve. And they'll be giving authorities in Switzerland an update a little bit later on this afternoon. We'll be bringing you the updates as they come. And today, also, the Italian foreign minister is going to be visiting the scene, as the first victim in this fire has been named this morning as Emanuele Galappini, a 17-year-old who was known as a young and up-and-coming golfer. And the Italian Golf Federation has released a statement mourning his passing, saying he's a young athlete who embodied passion and authentic values. In this time of great sorrow, our thoughts go out to his family and all those who loved him. Emmanuel, you will forever remain in our hearts. Now, the Swiss authorities so far have been reluctant to provide many firm details. They've been keeping things a little bit vague, and far more of the details we have heard have come from the Italian side of the authorities there, who have said the death toll, they understand it, stands at 47, and that, as they understand it as well, 5 people are still waiting to be identified. So 42 people of the people who have died in this attack have been identified, but also many of those injured unidentified yet as well. 115 people, 100 of them in critical conditions in hospitals, not just in Switzerland, but around neighbouring countries as well, in France, Germany and Italy, as they continue to seek to identify them and also to treat them as well for what is very severe burns inside their lungs and also to their skin as well.
Will Godley, thank you very much. An absolutely tragic story, and hearts go out to especially parents who are yet unaware whether or not their children are alive or not.
Tragic. All right, well, look, still ahead. Wait until we tell you about the allegations that billions of taxpayer dollars in the United States could be going to terrorist organisations. This is a massive, massive scandal. We'll be bringing you that next on Britain's Newsroom, Britain's favourite morning show on GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, and very good morning to you. This is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. For some of us heading back to work today, we will need the ice scrapers on hand to get us going. Cold northerly winds coming all the way down from the Arctic are now well in play across all areas of the UK. And we've seen this occluded front just slipping its way across parts of Northern Ireland, Wales and England first thing this morning. So there could be some icy stretches around as you are travelling to work, so do take care there. As that rain, sleet and hill snow clears through there, we will see some sunshine developing for many areas come the afternoon, but further showers just drifting into some eastern coastal regions, and it is going to feel relatively cold out there with a fairly brisk breeze. But the most frequent showers over the next few days are likely for northern areas of Scotland, and an amber snow warning comes into force for areas of the Highlands and the Grampians this evening and overnight into Saturday. 30 to 40 centimetres of snow building up and temporary blizzard conditions with the strong winds that we have around as well. Again, there will be some snow showers continuing this evening for other western and eastern peripheral areas, but inland they're likely to be very clear skies overnight, and underneath those starry scenes temperatures really are set to plummet. The frost will set in very quickly as soon as the sun goes down overnight, and by the time we reach the end of the night into the early hours of Saturday morning, a severe frost, potentially as low as -10 degrees Celsius in parts of Scotland, particularly where we do have some snow cover around. So a very bitterly cold start to the weekend for all of us. Into tomorrow, we'll likely see a few more of those wintry showers just drift into eastern areas of England, and so there is another snow and ice warning that comes into force here throughout Saturday. But again, if you are inland away from those, there will be a decent amount of sunshine if you want to get outside, but it's still going to be feeling very cold with that brisk breeze in play. Most of us not seeing temperatures higher than much of 2 or 3 degrees Celsius. Those cold conditions will continue into Sunday as well and into the start of next week. Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
This is your chance to become our biggest cash prize winner to date. £85,000 in totally tax-free cash could be making its way from our bank account to yours. It would be like having over £7,000 per month extra to play with each month for a whole year. That could be you, safe in the knowledge that 2026 is on us. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus us to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good morning, it's 11 a.m. on Friday the 2nd of January. Well, Happy New Year to all of you watching. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Alex Armstrong and Miriam Cates.
Well, an Islamist killer has been handed £240,000 in taxpayer expenses after winning a human rights claim over being isolated in prison.
Around 40 people have died and 115 are seriously injured following a fire at a bar at a popular Swiss tourist spot. Authorities are trying to identify the victims.
And as that work continues to identify the victims, the families desperately awaiting answers. We've been told that the emergency hotline set up to support them has been overwhelmed as the first victim has been named.
I know many across Britain are still struggling with the cost of living. Helping with that is my priority.
Well, new figures show that Britain's poorest families have grown even poorer under Labour. The government wanted to raise living standards for everyone. That doesn't seem to be the case.
As we look forward to 2026, we have a massive set of elections. The whole of Scotland, the whole of Wales, all 32 London boroughs.
Money, money, money. Nigel Farage has vowed to go double or quits on May's local elections with a huge spending spree of £5 million.
That's right, the Reform leader spending money where Boris Johnson won big when he became Mayor of London, also in Scotland and Wales. But will it work? All eyes now on those May elections.
And 6 people have died in Iran after police opened fire on protesters defying a regime crackdown. As nationwide unrest escalates, we'll have the latest.
I do think it's a win for black cab drivers because, like you say, it's evening up the level of the playing field now. The fares are going to go up.
Everybody should pay their fair share of the tax, no? Including the big boys.
Black cab drivers tell GB News they are delighted at a new tax hike for online minicab firms as the Chancellor promises to protect everyday cabbies.
And it's going to be a chilly start to 2026 as snow begins to fall in some parts of the country and travel disruption is expected. Have you seen any snow yet? Let us know. Alex, I think we need a weather warning in the studio. It's absolutely freezing. I've just asked for the aircon to be turned off, but I know you're just right, so sorry if you heat up.
It's perfect in here. You can never get it right. It's either boiling hot or freezing cold. But anyway, look, those black cabbies, I bet they probably are delighted, actually, about this news. But is it really good for the economy to have different taxes for different things? I don't know. Listen, I want to protect our black cab drivers. It's really expensive to get a cab anywhere these days, isn't it?
It is, and with Uber and the other firms, I don't understand how the pricing works. It changes different types of day. But I think the thing is we need a level playing field, don't we? And Uber is essentially a tech company owned by America, and all the money that we spend on Uber goes straight back to American shareholders, whereas I'd like to support the black cabbies in London. I think they do an incredible job.
Totally agree. What do you think? gbnews.com/your say. But first, let's get your news with Sophia Wensler.
Miriam, Alex, thank you. It's 11:03. Your top stories this hour. The first victim of a bar fire in the Swiss ski resort of Crans, Montana, has been named as Emanuele Galoppini, an Italian teen golfer. The Italian Golf Federation confirmed the news in the last few hours. Around 40 people are dead and 115 injured after the fire tore through the Constellation Bar as people celebrated the turn of the year. Most of the victims of the fire are thought to be young people, but identification of the bodies is expected to take several days at least. Witnesses say the ceiling caught fire after a bottle with a lit candle sparked flames whilst New Year's Eve celebrations were taking place. Switzerland's President, Guy Parmelin, described the incident as one of the worst tragedies our country has ever known. Meanwhile, King Charles called it a horrific disaster. In other news now, the UK's poorest households are worse off since Labour took power. That's according to new figures from Retail Economics. Spare cash left over after bills and essential spending for the least affluent households has shrunk by 2.1% since Labour was elected in July 2024. In contrast, the UK's most affluent households climbed by 10.3%. An Islamist killer has been handed £7,500 in compensation by the High Court over breaches of his human rights. The move was agreed by Justice Secretary David Lammy, and taxpayers will foot the £234,000 legal bill. Double murderer Fouad Awale was transferred to a special separation unit for the country's most dangerous prisoners. He claimed his segregation, which was designed to prevent him harming officers and radicalising other inmates, had breached his right to private life under Article 8 of the European Convention on Human Rights. Now, at least 6 people have been confirmed dead on the 5th day of spreading unrest across Iran. A severe economic crisis has sparked violent protests in cities across the country, the biggest protests in the last 3 years. Riot squads in Tehran have opened fire on demonstrators who pledge they won't back down. Back in the UK, 2 Albanian men have been charged after a pedestrian in his 80s died in a hit and run. The man was hit by a grey Mercedes in Gillingham, Kent, and carried on top of it for as much as a mile. 28-year-old Albert Matriou and 29-year-old Errol Palsy will appear in court today. A chickenpox vaccine for all young children is being rolled out on the NHS for the first time. It will be given along with the MMR jab, which protects against measles, mumps and rubella. The NHS says the jab will keep more kids in school and their parents won't have to take time off work to look after them. Meanwhile, it will also be expected to save the NHS £15 million a year.
While chickenpox can be irritable and difficult for children, it can also be extremely serious and occasionally even fatal. The great thing about this new vaccine is that it combines the vaccine for chickenpox with MMR, which means that families can access this jab for their children aged between 12 and 18 months. It's going to make a real difference. It's going to reach so many children, young people, keeping them healthy, making sure their parents don't have to take weeks off work, dealing with an irritable and unwell child.
The Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, speaking there. Now, black cab drivers have told GB News they're delighted about a new tax hike for online minicab firms. The crackdown, which was first announced by the Chancellor at November's budget, will bring the tax paid by the likes of Uber and Bolt in line with that of black cabs. It's after years of campaigning from taxi drivers and their representatives.
I do think it's a win for black cab drivers because, like you say, it's evening up the level of the playing field now. The fares are going to go up.
Everybody should pay their fair share of the tax, no? Including the big boys.
Snow has hit Britain, covering parts of London, Hertfordshire, Northamptonshire and Cambridgeshire overnight. A yellow weather warning for snow and ice is in place for sections of the UK this morning. Meanwhile, an amber snow warning for northern Scotland begins at midday. Travel disruption is expected as the wintry weather moves southeastwards throughout the day. And the daughter of Academy Award-winning actor Tommy Lee Jones has reportedly been found dead on New Year's Day. 34-year-old Victoria Jones was pronounced dead in the early hours of yesterday morning at a San Francisco hotel. That's according to US media reports. Victoria is the daughter of Jones and his second wife, Kimberly Cloughley, whom he was married to from 1981 to 1996. The cause of her death remains unknown. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now a time for finance.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
And here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.3452 and 1.1480 euros. The price of gold is £3,270 and 14 pounds per ounce. And the FTSE 100's at 9,985 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Welcome to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom. You're here with me, Alex Armstrong, and Miriam Cates. Now, just a lot of you are messaging about Iran, and I did talk about this the other day on State of the Nation, and I'm going to do a full review of what is going on, what's happened over the last week, and what is going on now this weekend at 9 o'clock. So if you're really interested in that story, come and join me. I've got an Iranian family. I've been to Iran, so this is a story very close to my heart. But a lot of those protests have been started as a result of the economic situation in Iran. And talking of economics, Miriam, what have you got for us?
Yes, lots of yours as well about our little chat about inflation that we had a few minutes ago. And I was talking about how inflation is actually a very modern phenomenon, and there's a fantastic website, well, in my view, Bank of England inflation calculator, where you can look at how inflation has affected the economy all the way back to 1200.
Yeah.
So we're talking over 800 years ago. Yeah. And what's extraordinary is that before the 1970s, inflation was not a thing. You know, inflation did go up gradually over the time, but you're looking at about kind of 0.3% a year. There's a brief period in the Napoleonic Wars where there was a lot of inflation, but other than that, even in the Second World War, actually, inflation was very well controlled by rationing. But since the 1970s, inflation is off the charts. And £100 in the 1970s, if you could buy something for £100 in 1970, that same basket of goods would cost you £1,383 today. In other words, if you just keep your money under the mattress, as people used to do, it will be worthless in a few years' time. And the problem with inflation is that it's a direct result of government policies. So things the governments do, like spending money or controlling interest rates, actively devalue our money, and yet they are never held accountable for that in the way that they're accountable for tax rises, let's say. Governments across the world do it. I think we should be outraged. There are things we can do to control inflation, but all governments always think, well, let's borrow from the future, let's borrow from future taxpayers, flood the market with money, decrease the value of money, make people keep spending, and then we're in this Ponzi scheme where the value of money goes down and down and down. That's why people feel poorer. It's not actually taxation. Taxation levels have not changed very much. It's inflation that makes people feel poor. And yet nobody has in their manifesto real ways of bringing down inflation.
Shouldn't remove the gold standard. Should have another Bretton Woods. What do you think at home? gbnews.com/your say. And joining us now is our political editor, Christopher Hope, who is... are you a big spender, Christopher Hope?
Yeah, I am, but that's fascinating hearing what you're saying there, Miriam. You've got an sort of Liz Truss-like there in your attack on the blob holding us back. I mean, yeah, interesting, isn't it, that we are always forward spending on government spending, and that's what we were told wasn't going to happen under Labour. We had that rolling 4-year spending period, and always by the end that we go on to next year, so we never actually have to pay in the money we're borrowing now. That Ponzi scheme, you're right.
And I think people now think that inflation is inevitable. It absolutely isn't from an historical... We have been led to believe that it's inevitable, but it really isn't.
And it's so damaging. And it hurts us all, really. I mean,
and it discourages people from saving and therefore investing.
Yeah, once it's in there, it's very hard to remove from the system.
Well, a good thing about someone spending money is that actually that might bring control, control some of that inflation. Nigel Farage is going to spend a lot of money, isn't he, Chris?
Yes, he raised £9 million from a donor called Chris Harborne but before Christmas. He's now spending $5 million of that on a direct mail plan to bombard people living in the kind of M25 area around London and Wales and Scotland with leaflets saying vote for me. Also, crucially, social media he's using. I know that in the May local elections last year he sent out personal messages in his name, but not from him, saying vote for me, today's the day we do it, all the best Nigel, that kind of thing. That's what he's doing. He knows that reform is driven really by this personal connection between Nigel Farage and the voters. The other people around him in reform aren't really well known, some are not known at all. So really anything which strengthens that personal connection between the leader and the supporters is what he's up to. But £5 million is a lot of money. He says he's going double or quits. But he does admit also in the interview with today's Times that his position could be at risk if he fails to make a breakthrough in May's election. So, having said that, it's quite hard to remove him as leader, having looked at the constitution of Reform UK, but he does understand that his personal reputation is on the line now.
And there's no obvious heir to Farage at the moment, whether there will be or not by the election.
He says he wants one. He repeatedly says he wants to find the person to replace him. He hasn't yet found that person.
But they could all be up for grabs then, couldn't they? All the political parties could be turned over if they're all the... I mean, who could make it so bad that all of them have got to go?
Well, it's a zero-sum game. I can't imagine the Tories, Labour and the Reform all doing badly, because that would mean the Lib Dems and the Greens do really well. I can't see that happening.
It is possible if they all...
I know what you mean.
If they all converge. So it is extraordinary at the moment, the polling, because in the past, up until a few years ago, you would expect the Tories and Labour to be both hovering around the 40% mark. That was typical. And yet now that's collapsed, and you've actually got 5 parties within a ballpark figure of 20%. OK, Reform are considerably higher than that, but the Lib Dems are lower.
Yes, that's right.
But because of the vagaries of different constituencies, if everybody gets around 20%, there's no winner.
Well, our system can't do that. We don't do that. We don't do three-way coalitions. But these numbers here, looking at the record, in May to December, some polling out today showing that Reform won 60 out of 171 wards contested in the council wards contested by elections. If you looked at that as a proportion of national vote, Reform 28%, Lib Dems 19%, interesting. Tories 16%, Labour 15%. Greens down at 11%. So the momentum is with Reform. Farage was the politician of last year. Can he maintain that? How does it look? He's got to try and pull in expertise. I think he needs to have some Labour support. Labour itself, though, is failing to deliver. They've got to find what they're up against. What is the point of a Labour government? A guy called Paul Ovenden. No one's heard of him, but he's an important guy, former head of strategy at Number 10. He has said that there's a complex coalition of campaign groups, regulators, litigators, trade bodies and well-networked organisations, the so-called stakeholder state, holding back this government, which you saw when you were a Tory MP, Miriam. You heard from the government then. They all blame this kind of blob. Dominic Cummings did the same thing, and it's still there, holding back the elected government doing what it should be doing. Whatever you think of Labour, they won the election with a manifesto. They should be able to deliver what they want to do, because that's democracy. If they can't do, it does damage, I think, faith in our entire democratic system.
And the big problem when you're Nigel Farage, the Reform Party, and you're leading the polls, is that you have got to maintain that lead, and he's got to maintain that lead now for the next 3 years.
Yes.
It's a big challenge, and it tends to be the case, I find. I mean, I remember when Ed Miliband was beating David Cameron in 2013 by a considerable amount, 8 to 10 points at some point. So it can all change.
Run out of steam, because as the key day, D-Day, decision day comes up in the votes, you can't have...
Polls start to narrow.
You know, I mean, Labour and the Tories should be saying, well, who's your Foreign Secretary? Who's your Home Secretary? None of these people exist yet because Nigel Farage hasn't yet appointed a shadow cabinet. Until he can show there's a team around him, if he wins, he's primus inter pares. He's first among equals. But who is equal to Nigel Farage? No one, let's be honest about it. He's got to appoint people around him. Where's the team that will run the country?
Going to be the most fascinating election in history, I think. Chris Verhoek, thank you very much. Right, moving on, though, around 40 people have died and 115 injured in Switzerland after a fire tore through a crowded bar at the Crans-Montana ski resort.
Well, we're now joined in the studio by GB News reporter Will Godley, who's keeping us up to date. Will, have there been any developments this morning on this tragic story?
Yeah, really tragic story. Some developments as the authorities continue to identify the victims and the injured. Of course, the first person has been named, the first victim, as 17-year-old Emanuele Gallopini, an Italian teenager who was a young golfer, and the Italian Golf Federation has said he embodied passion and authentic values. And in about an hour or so's time, the Italian foreign minister is going to be visiting the scene there, paying his respects not only to this 17-year-old boy, but to many of the other victims and other people injured as well. We've also heard in the last hour or so from some of the other people who have been injured, including a footballer who's been named as Thiaris dos Santos, who is a young footballer for FC Metz, a trainee there. And his agent has been speaking to French television, saying that he said he can't say he's doing well. He's suffering terribly. He has burns covering 30% of his body. And many people... similar conditions with burns covering a similar amount of their body from this fire on the New Year's Eve. And not just that footballer there who's being treated in Germany, but some 3 or 4 young players from a Swiss football club called Lutry are among the missing as well, it's being reported. And that's led to the Swiss Sports Awards tonight, due to be taking place, to be postponed, as it seems like a number of those injured and a number of the victims might have been sports stars, and we're getting more throughout the day.
Well, Godley, thank you very much. And as a mother, I just find this story so hard to think about. I've got a 17-year-old, 15-year-old, and the idea that they could go out for a night out celebrating with friends in what you'd think is a pretty safe location, a bar in a nice resort.
Yeah, in Switzerland, of all the places.
Absolutely.
Godspeed to their recovery for many of those people in hospital, and thoughts with their families, of course. Time now for the Great British Giveaway. It's 2026, and it could be on us. 85 grand to be won, and Hayley Sparks has got all the details for you.
It's a brand new year and we're giving you the chance to win our biggest cash prize to date. £85,000 in tax-free cash to make your new year the best yet. And we've come to the Aurora Collection Resort here in Lapland to celebrate. Imagine what the coming year could look like for you with a whopping £85,000 in the bank. You can have the complete Lapland experience all in one place by visiting the Northern Lights Village. Or just safe in the knowledge that this year is on us. An incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours.
For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 9th of February 2026. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, coming up next, MPs from different parties have issued a joint letter calling for the puberty blocker trial on children to be stopped.
We'll be going through that and more with broadcasters Claire Muldoon and Judita De Silva. They'll be with us very shortly. This is Britain's Newsroom.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. Oh, I felt like I was sat a bit weird then for a second there. It was just my laptop screen's in there. Let's get rid of that, shall we? I am here, of course, with Miriam Cates, and to discuss some of the big stories of the day. We've got broadcasters and journalists, Claire Muldoon and Judita De Silva. Happy New Year.
Happy
Pleasure
New
to have you both here with us.
Thank you.
Round two. What have you got for us this time, Claire?
Well, rival MPs issued a joint plea to Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, today to stop the trial of puberty blockers on children. This, of course, comes from the advice of the Cash report that said at the end of the report, which in itself actually mirrored what the Supreme Court ruling had said. But then at the end it said, well, we'll need more evidence to purport the fact and support the fact that children should not be given puberty blockers. Therefore, in order to prove that, we're going to have to get a sample size of children to test it, really. Children as young as 8. Now, come on, this is absolutely ridiculous. The man in charge of the NHS, Wes Streeting, has been elected on the Labour manifesto, has been elected, he himself has come out quite rightly and said, this isn't right in any way, shape or form. My view is it's abject child abuse and no parents should allow their children to go through this. Puberty is it's an awful time for children, it can be, to go through. We should be affirming these children first before we're affirming them that say they're not in the right body. I'm sorry, that does not wash with me at all. We need to ban it altogether. I don't think we need the evidence to support the fact that we do need a trial. Just stop it. Just say no.
It was a cowardly part of the Cash review.
It was, that's what I said.
Cowardly part of the Cash review.
So,
sorry, Claire.
No.
I don't want to interrupt you. Judita, what's interesting to me is that Wes Streeting, to start with, seemed very firm on this issue, and people who are, call it a label gender critical, but people who are concerned about this were quite relieved that he seemed to be following the Conservative stance of stopping the use of puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones. Why do you think he's taken a different approach to this trial?
I mean, he said so himself. And why thing I like a lot about Wes Streeting is that he does seem to be more of a full disclosure type of politician. And he said personally he's not for it, but because he had met young people, children and their families who were in distress as a result of it, he said it is my duty to have consideration for them as well. That is why he is in 2 minds.
What I find difficult about that is, children do get distressed about things, and that's not to minimise their distress. But as adults, we know that they will come through. So let's say he met families with anorexic children. That's obviously very distressing. If those anorexic children were saying, please stop force-feeding me, or I'm fat, would he say, yes, I agree, you're fat, we'll stop force-feeding you, because they're distressed?
It's two things. I think it's political optics and an actual practical application. For the optics of it, he should be seen to be listening, which is saying why I'm in 2 minds and I'm having the consideration. But I do agree that when you're young, you're supposed to be confused, you're supposed to be lost, you're supposed to be questioning everything, and it's the adult's responsibility to steer you. They have said that, according to these two MPs, that over 2,000 children over 15 years have had puberty blockers. So you have a group you can study to see short-term and long-term effects. Look to them first, because a lot of the time what therapists have said is that it's questions on sexuality, or it's just like growing pains, or people you like don't like you back. These are all the things that happen in that period of life. And it's our duty to make difficult situations that make us very unpopular with young people, but it's our responsibility to make them.
It's our responsibility to keep them safe.
Yes.
And nothing about the recommendation at the end of that cash report will make children safe.
But there will be children suing our government in 10 years' time going, how on earth did my government sanction
we
this?
have got the evidence already. We've got the detransitioners that are there to say, this is wrong. Please stop butchering our body and please stop giving us the puberty blockers because it's not right and it's not working.
Even if you have a point that's valid, this is something that happens again and again with politicians, with advocates, with panelists, is that you can deliver a message that is judgmental of someone else without using language that feels insulting. That's what creates antagonism.
Let's talk about Mamdani, shall we? He's the new mayor of New York. He's just been inaugurated, but he's been just sworn in. Thank you, that's the word I'm looking for. Sworn in. Same thing, yeah. What do you make of it, Claire?
Well, he is in charge of, he's mayor of one of the best cities, I would say, in the world. And this time last year, I was actually in New York. And I found it a very hopeful place. I found it a very clean place. I found it a very happy place. And I came back and I was full of the joys of life with the children. And, you know, we had a great time over New Year there. And it really, it's almost as if he's taken the Scottish National Party manifesto. Let me read out a couple of things that he wants to do. Freeze rents, community safety, but the thing that gets me is early childhood and education. Nicola Sturgeon presented the cardboard boxes, right, for new mothers. Do you know what he wants to do? 125,000 babies born yearly in the city. New mothers will get, quote, a collection of essential goods and resources free of charge, including items like diapers, baby wipes, nursing pads, postpartum pads, swaddles and books. He also plans to finance an expansion of K-12 childhood education services. All these services that he wants to bring into this city, that he's been voted on, will cost that city $10 billion, which equates to around about £7.5 billion. He doesn't even have the authority to do it. He still has to get, you know, the Senate on side. He has to get the legislation up and running. For me, it's word salad.
Yes.
For me, it's not going to be deliberate.
Promises.
It's empty promises.
Is it empty promises, Judith?
I don't think it's empty promises, because a lot of people had exactly the same attitude and said that he'd never get elected, but he did. Because if you listen to that speech, he spoke to the
Trump as well.
Yeah, but he spoke to the people of New York. Like, New York is a unique and very powerful and influential city because it's one of the most diverse cities with diverse issues across demographics, across religions, across cultures. And in that speech, which he has actually been very transparent about when he said his mandate and how he plans to go about funding these things, he's going to go after the wealthy. During the campaign, we saw the kind of money that people like Bloomberg put behind running against him. That money exists in New York, and it's being kind of shackled around the 1%. And in his speech said, I'm going to go after the 1% because why should they be protected while the whole city is built on your backs and the sweat of your labour, and you don't get to enjoy the spoils of war? So that's what he's going to do.
He's going to implement bus lanes. I mean, we know how disruptive they are. Before anything else, they're going to
should come in. You went to New York. The congestion in New York is insane. It can take you an hour to go 100 metres.
No,
so
you don't take.
Not everyone wants to use the subway.
The problem with taxing the so-called rich is that they don't have cash; they have assets, and not only that, their assets can easily be moved, and they're not taxable because a lot of them carry debt.
Look at someone like Trump who has property. You can start liquidating assets and getting cash.
But he hasn't got the power to do that, Judith, and he doesn't have the fiscal power to do that. This is the problem we find time and time again, and when you start to threaten them, they just move.
But then look at what he's capitalising on. We're coming into the midterms next year. Public opinion is the most valuable currency. He has the public opinion of New York, which is a powerful state. And if you're seen to go against him and be protecting the rich come the midterms, he's going to have the kind of sway that the Democratic Party
I think he's just trying to get a presidential ticket. I think that's what he's working towards.
Public opinion is rearing for Nigel Farage and reform. And you said last statement that was stoking rhetoric
I said it's co-opted. I said it's being co-opted by a rhetoric. No, I'm not. It's not. I said it's being co-opted by a rhetoric of hate, and denying that exists. It's why it's perpetuating.
That's exactly what Mamdani's doing now.
Who has he said he hated? Did you actually listen to his speech?
That he's trying
his
to go
speech
after.
was a unifying speech, and he said, like which Biden did when he came into office, is that I will be a mayor for everyone, not just some people.
Ladies, I'm so sorry.
People you love only speak to certain factions of the people.
We are going to have to leave it there, but thank you both so much for joining us this morning. There's plenty left on the show, but first of all, we've got your 60-second news update with Sophia Wensler.
Good morning. Your headlines at 11:33. The first victim of a bar fire in the Swiss ski resort of Crans, Montana, has been named as Emanuele Galoppini, an Italian teen golfer. Around 40 people are dead and 115 injured after the fire tore through the Constellation Bar as people celebrated the turn of the year. Donald Trump has told Iran that the US is locked and loaded and will intervene if Tehran kills any more anti-regime protesters. It comes as at least 6 people have been confirmed dead amid demonstrations over soaring prices and the country's plunging currency. An Islamist killer has been handed £7,500 in compensation by the High Court over breaches of his human rights, and taxpayers will now foot the £234,000 legal bill. A chickenpox vaccine for all young children is being rolled out on the NHS for the first time. And it's going to be a chilly start to 2026 with cold Arctic winds bringing snow and ice to Britain. A yellow weather warning for snow and ice is in place throughout the country this morning. Those are the headlines for now. I'll have more news for you at the top of the hour.
Well, we're now joined by Tom and Dawn for Good Afternoon Britain. Welcome, you two. What's going to be on your show today? We're just having a good old chat about some of the festivities that the different celebrations people take part in over New Year.
Well, that might be a little bit of the show, actually, because we are also talking, as well as the serious stuff, we're having some fun with the fact that young people now are rather going and having parties where they just stand and get cold rather than going to the pub.
Right.
I know, it's Gen Z. I mean, don't even get me explaining it, but he's going to go and volunteer.
The point of the party is to get cold.
Yeah, absolutely. You just go and get...
I'm quite cold in the studio, but
I think it's a money-saving thing.
Right.
I think that standing outside and drinking in a park, which, to be fair...
Oh, right. Sounds good.
I think previous generations have done heartily.
Have you... is that coming from experience, Tom, or...?
When I don't know if I should be admitting this, but there's a part of Cambridge where I grew up called Lammasland, and at school, everyone would gather there, you know, on a Friday night, when we might have been 15 or 16, to then drink in the park. It's what you did because your parents weren't there and you weren't allowed in the bars.
Getting drunk at WKDs.
At school. When I was...
Good old days, good old days.
But obviously, the big story we're covering is the horror of the Swiss tragedy, and we have a live press conference coming from Italy, because we know the first victim now, a young Italian lad, so we're going to go to Italy live and see what they have to say about the subject.
Yeah, and this is going to be the first significant update that we've heard officially from Italy. We're expecting to... I mean, it is remarkable how few individuals have been named so far, but it does speak to the horror of that night and the difficulty in terms of trying to find out who is confirmed to have sadly died there, who is missing, and who might have survived.
Yeah, so many young people just going out for a night out.
I know, it really is a horror story for all those poor people. And it's hundreds of people affected. You know, this is not just the people, of course, in hospital, but then their families. You think how many people really are suffering so much.
When it's young people as well, this is the thing. Often you think about when there is a terrible fire, it's going to be the infirm. It's going to be those with perhaps not as strong mobility that don't get out. When we're talking about sportsmen, when we're talking about people at the peak of their physical fitness who are unable to escape from that, it just gives you a slight indication of just how terrible it really was.
How rapidly the fire spread.
Yeah, and we're also talking about how skint we're all going to be.
Yeah. Oh, wow, sounds like a really fun show.
It's great, isn't it? Yeah.
Happy New Year.
I've just been talking about my favourite website, which is the Bank of England's inflation calculator.
Oh, yes.
I'm sure you've been on that.
Many times.
Right, well, all that and up at midday, of course. But next, US President Donald Trump says America is locked and loaded and ready to intervene in Iran's protest. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Now, some of us may have woken up to a dusting of snow, and over the weekend it is going to remain very cold, but many inland areas will actually remain dry and quite sunny through the day. But we do have a brisk northerly wind and Arctic maritime air mass across the UK. That's bringing that bitterly cold feel, and that will mean that any showers that do fall will likely fall as snow. Now, that's particularly over parts of northern Scotland. Some frequent heavy snow showers will bring some very difficult driving conditions, and there are amber snow warnings in force here. We'll also see a risk of ice and snow showers across some western areas throughout this afternoon. A very cold feel wherever you are. Inland areas, though, seeing plenty of sunshine through today. Into this evening, those frequent heavy snow showers will continue for many northern areas of Scotland. There is a risk of drifting snow as well with the very strong winds. Showers of snow will start to fall across parts of Northern Ireland, into parts of North Wales as well through this evening. Much of Northern England, Central and Eastern England staying relatively dry though, but it is going to be a very cold night tonight. A widespread sharp frost that could take much of the day to thaw. So clear skies for many inland areas throughout this evening, perhaps some starry skies out there, but as we look towards the north and eastern areas of England, we'll start to see some snow showers encroaching into the inland areas here, bringing a risk of a few centimetres accumulating by Saturday morning. Once again through Saturday, many inland areas, much of central England, northern areas of England, southern Scotland, staying dry, clear and sunny, but it's northern Scotland, parts of Northern Ireland, the west as well, where there's that risk of snow showers, just a few centimetres away from the far north of Scotland, but enough to bring a risk of ice and some travel disruptions. So do take care if you're travelling, but otherwise enjoy the sunshine. Bye-bye.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. Now, the US government has stopped sending federal childcare money to Minnesota.
This happened as a result of serious claims that Minnesota sent millions of dollars to fake what they call daycare centres, which is nurseries here, run by Somalians over many years. Let's take a look at this video.
Where are the children at? Are there children here today?
No.
No children?
Yes.
Why are there no children?
Two of Mexico.
Would my son, little Joey, have friends to play with here?
No.
No.
Yes.
No friends for little Joey?
Yes. Sorry.
Well, Alex, that video is part of a longer film that was made by a journalist called
Nick Shirley.
Nick Shirley.
I
That's
believe.
had well over 100 million views across different platforms.
Way more than that now. It's possibly one of the most viewed bits of journalism on the internet. It's that big. It's really huge.
And he goes to these daycare centres, these nurseries that have been set up, that are getting lots of funding from American taxpayers, and found there are no children there. So they're claiming money for children that they're supposedly looking after, but there are no children there. And similar thing has happened with other welfare programmes like food aid to vulnerable children, where the local governments have paid out millions of dollars to feed children who have then never been fed. It's a huge scandal in the US, growing every day.
And we've also got, joining us, Nora Lee Knotson, US political commentator, to tell us more. Nora, this story has captured the United States of America, is now spilling out, of course, to us here in Britain and other parts of Europe. Nora, what's the latest on this? Because I'm seeing more and more allegations now that perhaps there's this links back even to the Somalian government.
Yes. So what's happened now as a result of this
video going viral is it's exposed massive fraud in the government programs. And Minnesota is at the epicenter of it all. And what's even greater is that Minnesota is run by Waltz, who was running for VP under the Democratic ticket. And all of these government agencies in Minnesota were managed by Democrats, and it was the Democrats who turned a blind eye. There's $250 million that was fraudulently taken that should have been for children who needed food. Now there's the child care scandal. There's also the scandal for autism. Numbers have ranged up into 18 billion potentially that has been siphoned off. So this not only exposes the massive fraud from the Democrats, but how they turned a blind eye because it was their identity politics, their wokery, and surprisingly, 98% of the people who have been charged, 98 people have been charged, 88 of those people are from Somalia. And as we know, one of the top congresswomen in Minnesota, Omar, she is from Somalia, and she is very progressive. And now it's been highlighted that she's lied about her wealth. So the question is, what is the corruption that we're seeing within the Democratic Party in Minnesota, and what other Democratic states are running the same sort of corruption?
And Nora Lee, there are questions about whether or not this money could have been used to fund terrorism, because some of the money obtained fraudulently was spent on things like luxury cars and other goods within the US. But we understand that a lot of that money has actually made its way into Somalia itself and could possibly be being used to fund terrorism.
That's a very good point. It's not only about fleecing the American taxpayer. It's not only about not helping those in need and the poor, but money has been sent back to Somalia, and they believe it's gone to al-Qaeda terrorist organizations. And of course, that just undermines America, the safety of Americans, and helping those most in need. What we see is when there's massive government spending, there is no oversight and just rubber stamping of these NGOs. There's fraud. And it highlights, again, the whole DOGE that Trump put in place and wanting to crack down on this fraud. And there's a lot of questions to be answered by the Democrats in Minnesota. And this sends a strong message because they want to see more tough punishment of people involved in the fraud. They're even talking about denaturalizing some of the people involved who got citizenship that came from Somalia. And it's not historically done. I think there have only been 11 cases of it over the past 20 odd years, but it's a real problem.
And, well, obviously, many of our viewers are saying, we wonder if similar things are happening here in the UK. And, of course, we point to the grooming gang scandal, which has got similar tones to it, should we say. I want to put this to you, Nora. This is from, of course, Tim Walz, Minnesota's governor, of course, formerly VP candidate for Kamala Harris. He has said in the past that Trump is politicising the issue. Walz wrote on social media that while Minnesota has worked for years to crack down on fraud, he believes the Trump administration is using the allegations to defund programs that help Minnesotans rather than genuinely addressing fraud. What do you make of that, Nora?
Absolutely not. They've turned a blind eye to it. Under the Biden administration, they swept it under the rug. Even the Small Business Association, they found loans that were being given out to people who didn't deserve the loans, and they pardoned those loans knowingly. So this is about doing what is right for the American people, the American taxpayer, regardless of your politics. We cannot be fleecing Americans and protecting corrupt Democrats who play identity politics. It's not about religion. It's not about ethnicity. It's about doing what's right for the American taxpayers.
Yeah. Nora Lee, thank you so much for joining us and giving us some updates on that story. We will keep everyone here at GB News on top of that story too. Another bonkers thing that I found out the other day is they've changed the state flag in Minnesota, and now it looks strikingly similar to the Somalian flag. I honestly mean, you should all go and have a look at it. It is really crazy what's going on over there, and I think this journalism that's been done has exposed massive corruption.
This is why I do object slightly when the Trump administration starts to cast aspersions on Britain. It's not that we don't have problems, we certainly do, but they've got enough of their own to sort out.
Well, there you go. Plenty more to come. You're with Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Oh no, not quite as cold as the UK. It is still rather unsettled at the moment across the Mediterranean. Storm Francis is bringing rather wet and windy conditions to the Canary Isles, Madeira and even mainland areas of Iberia. Further towards the east, we have further heavy rain and mountain snow that's going to be building across the Balkan region as we head into Saturday as well. These generally unsettled conditions are quite likely to continue as we head throughout the weekend and into next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline.
Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. And Alex, I was just wondering if your arm has recovered yet from New Year's Eve.
Yeah, I mean, you're very strong, Miriam. Miriam's very strong, I'll tell you that. But I think we just about... you let me win, didn't you? We had an arm wrestle.
I did not let you in. But if you're wondering what on earth we're talking about, take a look at this from... Was it last night?
The other night before.
Or Blair's into one.
Whenever it was.
I'm going to do any press. I can do a couple.
Should we do, like, what could we do? What version could we do?
No version.
Should we do an arm wrestle?
The poor lady she's in a very short dress. Do not.
How about that?
Okay.
How about that?
Here we go.
Right.
Ready, go. Oh, very good.
Wow. Alex. All right.
She won.
Oh, yeah. What
She let me win. She let me win, honestly.
didn't.
And then she had to do a rematch with Bev as well. So I think you did exceptionally well, Miriam. And Hazel said earlier on your stage, she said, thanks for being such a gentleman and looking after Miriam, Alex. Miriam looked after me. I don't know if you could tell, but I had a few too many drinks, I think, babe. It was a bit of a wild one.
It was a wildie. It was a fun show.
It
was great to celebrate the new year, but it was 3 hours it was passed as a blur.
It was. Right, listen, that's it from us. That's it from Britain's Newsroom. I will see you tomorrow for the Saturday 5 and Alex Armstrong tonight. It's Good Afternoon Britain next.
Oh, sorry. Hello. We were just doing that in our spare time. Lots of serious news to come, though, on Good Afternoon Britain, including a press conference from Italy. We'll learn more about the dreadful tragedy in Switzerland.
And why dry January is bad for you.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, and very good morning to you. This is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. For some of us heading back to work today, we will need the ice scrapers on hand to get us going. Cold northerly winds coming all the way down from the Arctic are now well in play across all areas of the UK. And we've seen this occluded front just slipping its way across parts of Northern Ireland, Wales and England first thing this morning. So there could be some icy stretches around as you are travelling to work, so do take care there. As that rain, sleet and hill snow clears through there, we will see some sunshine developing for many areas come the afternoon, but further showers just drifting into some eastern coastal regions, and it is going to feel relatively cold out there with a fairly brisk breeze. But the most frequent showers over the next few days are likely for northern areas of Scotland, and an amber snow warning comes into force for areas of the Highlands and the Grampians this evening and overnight into Saturday. 30 to 40 centimetres of snow building up and temporary blizzard conditions with the strong winds that we have around as well. Again, there will be some snow showers continuing this evening for other western and eastern peripheral areas, but inland they're likely to be very clear skies overnight, and underneath those starry scenes temperatures really are set to plummet. The frost will set in very quickly as soon as the sun goes down overnight, and by the time we reach the end of the night into the early hours of Saturday morning, a severe frost, potentially as low as -10 degrees Celsius in parts of Scotland, particularly where we do have some snow cover around. So a very bitterly cold start to the weekend for all of us. Into tomorrow, we'll likely see a few more of those wintry showers just drift into eastern areas of England, and so there is another snow and ice warning that comes into force here throughout Saturday. But again, if you are inland away from those, there will be a decent amount of sunshine if you want to get outside, but it's still going to be feeling very cold with that brisk breeze in play. Most of us not seeing temperatures higher than much of 2 or 3 degrees Celsius. Those cold conditions will continue into Sunday as well and into the start of next week. Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
We want to make the new year your best year yet, with a chance to win our greatest cash prize to date. A simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Treat the family to that bucket list holiday you've always fancied. Get your dream car you've always wanted. Or just relax, safe in the knowledge that the coming year is on us. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
We love Great Britain. We love its history, its culture and its tradition. And that's why we're so proud to be part of GB News.
You look genuinely emotional. Oh, come here.
GB News does pay attention to those who are ignored by the mainstream media. The majority of this country whose forefathers fought and died to maintain liberty, to fight for freedom of speech.
The rule of law, the rights of property and democracy. This is the heritage that our country should be so proud of.
Which of course includes our Christian heritage. There's been a huge resurgence in the number of people going to church. Perhaps they're not finding what they're looking for, and they're looking for something a bit deeper, a bit more truthful, a bit more akin to Britain's Christian heritage.
That's right, get ready, because the most exciting night in general election history starts now!
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 12 o'clock on Friday, the 2nd of January. I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Dawn Neeson.
Now, Swiss authorities fear the death toll could still get worse after New Year's Eve fire killed around 40 people at a popular skiing resort. Families have been told it could take weeks to identify the victims.
Well, yeah, the Swiss authorities say it's their top priority to identify the victims and inform their families. And just now, in the last few minutes, the Italian foreign minister has been visiting the scene and offering Italy's support in helping this horrific fire.
I know many across Britain are still struggling with the cost of living. Helping with that is my priority.
Meanwhile, new figures show Britain's poorest families have grown even poorer under Labour. We thought this government wanted to raise standards for everybody, though.
As we look forward to 2026, we have a massive set of elections. The whole of Scotland, the whole of Wales, all 32 London boroughs.
Hey, big spender. Yes, Nigel Farage has vowed to go double or quits on May's local elections with a huge spending spree of £5 million.
That's right, the Reform UK leader, after raising £9 million from one individual, is spending £5 million of that on these May local elections and, of course, those in Wales and Scotland. But will it work? Is this the year of Farage?
And 6 people are dead in Iran after police opened fire on protesters defying a regime crackdown as nationwide unrest escalates. We'll have the latest on that breaking story.
And an Islamist killer has been handed £240,000 in taxpayer cash after the Justice Secretary David Lammy settles a human rights claim using the ECHR over his treatment in prison.
And a yellow weather warning for snow and ice has been issued across parts of Sussex by the Met Office as a cold front sweeps through the UK. We'll be live from Sussex in the snow. Really should.
Well, Dawn, it's nice to be back with you.
Happy New Year!
It feels like we've done lots of different shows over the course of the Christmas period, and now things are sort of back on.
Reunited for a bit of arm wrestling. But did you know the exclusive GB News arm wrestling was with?
It was us two.
It was us.
We did it about 11 months ago.
Yeah, we did. We set the trends. Others follow. What can I possibly say?
Look, I mean, if other people want to do it, I don't think we own the concept of arm wrestling.
We did it better though.
Maybe.
I have to say,
Maybe.
we did it. We possibly did it slightly more sober as well.